Greetings, knights and knaves, lords and ladies. 'Tis I, your Lord Commander, and welcome to Knighthood 101, the series where we use medieval topics to guide us on our journey to becoming modern-day knight gentlemen. This little mini-series of one-shot philosophical videos is my attempt at breathing life into a long-dead project I started a little over a year ago. You may remember a little video I put out called Nightlife, How to Be a Better Man. Which, honestly, looking back at it now, seems very self-righteous. I mean, who wants to sit around and listen to some gamer nobody talk about what you're doing wrong as a man? No one. Which is exactly why we have undergone a bit of reimagining for the sake of actively getting our message out while not blatantly attacking any specific lifestyle. Instead, I plan on talking about some of the more general topics of life as a medieval knight, and using those topics to connect to real situations in my own life. As many of you well know, I often struggle with my own mental health, so using my platform to help you guys, and by extension myself, overcome some of these struggles feels like a noble task, and I hope we can share this journey together. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even any disagreements, please drop them in the comment section below. I would love to start an open discussion about it with you guys rather than me just talking to you guys. And if there are any topics you'd like for us to discuss for next week's episode, then of course drop your requests and suggestions in the comment section below. Anyway, for today's video, we are going to be discussing the widely known ideology and set of principles known as chivalry, and how we can use it in our own lives for the purpose of self-improvement. So polish those shields and strap a sword to your hip, lads, because our knight's training begins now. So to answer the most obvious question you may be asking is, what exactly is chivalry? Well, a quick little Google search will tell us that the textbook definition of chivalry is the medieval knightly system with its religious, moral, and social code. It is the combination of qualities expected of an ideal knight, especially courage, honor, courtesy, justice, and a readiness to help the weak. And while that sounds all cool in a medieval setting, honestly to me I was very dissatisfied with that really basic answer. Like, come on, we already knew that it was some kind of knightly code, but what exactly is the code? This is where things start to get a little tedious, because unlike the 10 Commandments of the Bible or the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, there is no single document or widely distributed written code of chivalry itself. There wasn't a flyer passed out to the squires and pages of medieval Europe as they underwent their knightly training, like some kind of ye olde medieval study guide. Instead, the closest thing we have to an actual written text of chivalry comes from the 160 plus paged medieval poem known as the Song of Roland. This song describes one of the final battles in Emperor Charlemagne's conquest of the Muslim-controlled city of Saragossa in Spain. The song tells the story of betrayal by one of the emperor's own knights, Ganelon, which leads to the death of another knight, Sir Roland. In the face of betrayal, Sir Roland's actions and ultimate sacrifice lead to the formation of the code of chivalry and knightly conduct that become the expected standard of all medieval knights. And yet, even then, there isn't a bullet point list of chivalric rules and standards like in an employee handbook, a how-to guide, or chivalry for dummies, if you will. Just the story of a knight's sacrifice and his actions in the face of war. And there we have it, lads. There is no straight answer. Just read this 160-page poem, sacrifice your life to a French emperor, and boom, you become a knight. And I, your Lord Commander, will see you in the next video. Goodbye. Psychith. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to being a chivalric knight than all that, but we will talk about that in just a moment. For now, let us discuss the reason why we needed this standard code of conduct in the first place. The short explanation of it is that chivalry was designed to place guidelines on the dominant military force that otherwise would have run rampant if left unchecked. That's right, lads, knights weren't always inherently good and pure-hearted, which may seem a little obvious, but the details are much bloodier than you think. While Ganelon may have been the sole villain in the Song of Roland, he is far from the first or the worst of history's evil knights. One of the most well-known truly evil knights is none other than Sir Mordred from the Arthurian legends of the Round Table. On his adventures with Sir Lancelot in pursuit of the Holy Grail, he slays a knight in a fit of rage while attacking a dwarf who shot and killed his horse. He was so satisfied with his first kill that he didn't even chase after the fleeing dwarf. It is said that he, quote, struck the knight so hard that, despite his helmet, he drove the sword into his brain. And as if that wasn't enough, Sir Mordred helped to orchestrate the public revelation of the affair between Sir Lancelot and Queen Guinevere. This manipulation drove a wedge between King Arthur and his knights, splitting the order in two, which leads to an all-out civil war. As Arthur marched to war against Sir Lancelot, the king left Mordred in charge as ruler of England in his absence. With his newfound power as interim King of England, Sir Mordred overthrew Arthur while he was away and usurped his throne. Now, outside of these legends, real-world knights of the medieval period were just as bad. These heavily armored mounted troops were used to attack defenseless peasants who were the driving force of economy for minor lordships and fiefs. These minor lords would use knights to wage a financial war against one another, targeting their peasants and laborers who would produce wealth and/or value for their lords and masters. During the period known as the High Middle Ages, peasants and small folk began praying to their patron saints and even commissioning aid from the Pope himself for deliverance from the Knight Scourge. During this time, knighthood was associated with the title of low-ranking nobles who fought as mounted horsemen. So essentially, anybody with heavy armor and a horse could be considered a knight, and then they would be used as a weapon to wage this financial war of espionage against their other minor lords. And in the end, the people that suffered the most at the hands of these knights were the small folk, the peasant people. Long story short, knights were medieval bullies with heavy armor, elite status, land ownership, and a tendency for violence. It wasn't until the late Middle Ages that the rank had become associated with the ideals of chivalry and the code of conduct for the perfect courtly Christian warrior. So essentially, the code of chivalry was established to help hold these medieval thugs accountable for their actions and turn their brutish demeanor into high society mannerisms and courtly conduct. And this right here is exactly what I love about the concept of chivalry. It's basically a how-to guide for public service and gentlemanliness. Now, while the code itself had no specific bullet point list of rules, knights were sworn to live and act according to several highly moral virtues. A number of Google searches and many weeks of research revealed that there are either 5, 9, or 12 knightly virtues, but the most common of them are faith, honor, valor, loyalty, generosity, and courtesy. Now, since there is no specific code itself, but we seem to have all the building blocks and guidelines and moral standards to make one, I think you know where I'm going with this. I figured we could go ahead and make our very own chivalric code, complete with bullet points in ye old medieval study guide and everything. While the purpose of the code of chivalry in the Middle Ages was used as a deterrent for medieval bullies, our code isn't intended to take anything away from you. Instead, ours is designed to help build you up from what you already are and to guide you on your journey to becoming a modern-day knight gentleman. Now, keeping in mind the 6 virtues I listed before, our own code of chivalry will embody 2 more. And those are integrity and empathy, and we'll do a deep dive into the creative and philosophical decisions I made when writing our code in just a moment. But for now, I present to you the Code of Amber Dawn. Herein lies the laws of chivalry and what it means to be a knight of Amber Dawn. Number 1. The Law of Honored Conduct. A knight's word is his bond, and his actions should reflect the highest standards of goodness and truthfulness. Speak with honesty, act with fairness, and always strive to uphold the reputation of knighthood. Number 2. The Law of Dutiful Service. A knight's duty lies in protecting the weak, serving the noble cause, and defending the realm from harm. Offer your strength to those who need it, stand against injustice, and always be ready to answer the call of duty. Number 3. The Law of Empathetic Understanding. A knight should cultivate a deep understanding of the human condition, recognizing the pain and suffering of others. Listen with compassion, offer solace to the afflicted, and always seek to alleviate the burdens of those around you. Number 4. The Law of Sacrificial Dedication. A knight's life is a direct influence to the world and to the greater good. Be willing to put the needs of others before your own. Make sacrifices for the betterment of society and never hesitate to lay down your life in the service of a worthy cause. Number 5. The Law of Valorous Defense. A knight is a shield against evil, sworn to protect the innocent and uphold the sanctity of life. Defend those who cannot defend themselves, confront wickedness with courage, and never shy away from facing danger in the name of protection. Number 6. The law of unwavering loyalty. A knight's loyalty is a pledge of unwavering allegiance to those who deserve their trust. Honor your commitments, stand by your companions in times of adversity, and never betray the trust bestowed upon you. Number 7. The law of resolute justice. A knight is a champion of fairness, seeking to uphold the law and ensure the righteousness prevails. Judge impartially and always strive to maintain a balance between justice and mercy. Number 8. The law of humble selflessness. A knight should never seek glory for themselves, but should always seek to bring glory to the people important to them. Remain humble in your accomplishments, recognize the contribution of others, and never let pride cloud your judgment. Number 9. The law of perpetual self-improvement. A knight is a lifelong student, constantly seeking to improve their skills and knowledge to challenge ignorance. Practice diligently, seek guidance from wise masters, and never cease in your pursuit of excellence. And lastly, number 10, the law of unyielding hope. A knight is a beacon of optimism, inspiring others to believe in the power of good. Spread hope amidst despair, ignite the flames of courage, and never surrender to the forces of darkness. Now, for those of you who actually listen through all 10 of those laws, I greatly appreciate it, but those are very puffed up and written in a flowery manner for the purpose of roleplay throughout our video game series here in the channel. So as we play through the next couple of night series that we have planned, we will be referring back to the laws. Now, for those of you who did not want to listen to those 10 ridiculously long written laws, I did in fact make a shorter version known as the Code. The short version of this code helps to answer the question, what does it mean to be a modern day knight? To be a knight means to refrain from malicious intent, to adhere to your duties and volunteer your aid willingly, to show empathy to everyone and to strive to alleviate their burdens, to be there for those who need you, even if it means making sacrifices for them, to stand up for what is right and to defend your morals and the morals of those around you, to show loyalty to those who place their trust in you, to strive to be worthy of that trust, and to always follow through on your commitments, to mediate issues with fair and impartial judgment, to show humility in success and failure, and to refrain from expecting reward, to strive for constant self-improvement, and to combat ignorance with respect and understanding. And lastly, to nurture an optimistic presence that inspires and uplifts those around you. Whew, man, just reading that gives me chills, but I know that it was a lot of information and a lot of thou shalls, so let's talk about it. To start, of course, no one is going to enforce any of these laws upon you, but that doesn't mean that you can't enforce them on yourself. After all, the whole point of this video is to help us strive for self-improvement. This written code just helps give us a more structured outline of what that outcome should look like. Now, to break down some of these laws, I know a lot of them mention sacrifice for the greater good and whatnot, and I just want to point out that in no way am I advising you to put yourself in harm's way. I had these codes written in a way that made them feel medieval and knightly, but realistically, the sacrifices I refer to are things like effort, time, and labor. I know that in the short amount of time that we have on Earth, many of us spend much of our life in pursuit of fulfillment, enlightenment, purpose, whatever. But sometimes we have to sacrifice that time for something or someone else. Help out a friend, do your chores, go to work and do the menial tasks of day-to-day life. It's what keeps us alive and makes us human. Those same menial tasks help us to be more empathetic to the everyday struggles and labors of our fellow humans. We share this world with a lot of people, and a lot of people are likely to think, look, feel, and act differently than you, but those differences shouldn't put up barriers between us. Empathize with your fellow human, because there's a lot of us out there and we're all going through something, and those little acts of kindness never ever go unnoticed. The tiniest little thing could truly turn someone's whole day and or mood around, so strive for those little things to be good. Leave a good impression, let your little acts of kindness alleviate the burdens of those around you, as it states in the third law. Speaking of law, I feel like this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. In no way do I advise you to act as any kind of law enforcement, nor do I condone the breaking of any actual laws of government or similar authorities. While it's cool that we have our little code of philosophies, these are designed to help improve the lifestyle of the individual, and our code has no authority over anyone else except those within our community. For example, let's say somebody in a live chat is acting dishonorably to another member of that live chat. It is now our responsibility as the community to protect our community member. But what it doesn't give us the right to do is to go into somebody else's live stream and start enforcing our laws on people that are not part of our community. You know what I'm saying? Now, we have covered all of the laws of chivalry, and within those laws are vaguely outlined the virtues that we mentioned before, but there's still one virtue we haven't really talked about yet, and that is integrity, which is defined as the state of being whole and undivided. Integrity, while not explicitly mentioned or listed in the code, is hidden within. All 10 laws outline how an aspiring modern-day chivalric knight should speak, think, and act, and when those 3 things align with one another, then you have achieved true integrity. Speaking of achieving things, one last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up lesson numero uno in Knighthood 101 is the recurring concept of achievement. I want to make this absolutely clear. The code and the laws described within are not designed for you to achieve it, or at least not that you will keep that achievement anyway. As humans, we are fickle and ever-changing beings that adapt to growth, outside events, and changes in absolutely different ways. One year I may be really good at following all the laws of chivalry, but the following year I may slip in a few of those areas, and honestly, that's perfectly okay. The point of the code isn't to build you into the person you're going to be forever. It's a roadmap to the next step. Every day, every action has a next step, and the code is supposed to guide you. The code is the journey, not the destination. This is why the 9th law is one of my absolute favorites, because you should never stop improving yourself. You should never stop wanting to improve yourself. Perpetual literally means never ending, so essentially the law is the law of never ending self-improvement. Which honestly just sounds so exciting. I can't wait to see what I can improve about myself tomorrow and who I will grow to become because of it. And I hope that this, even just a little bit, inspires you to want to improve yourself and grow as a human being. Anyway lads, I do hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it has inspired you to take the oath and follow the code of Amber Dawn in your day-to-day life. Because it's certainly a challenge that I absolutely want to tackle. Especially with 2024 swiftly approaching, it shall certainly be the year of the knight for us lads. And if you liked this video, please consider dropping a like for me. 20 likes or more, and I will definitely make another lesson for us next week, probably around the same time on the same day. I would very much like to keep this series going. Maybe we'll even include some journaling prompts that you guys can drop in the comments section or something. I feel like that would be pretty cool. But until that time, my loyal knights, always remember, honor in service, glory in sacrifice. And I, your Lord Commander, will see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.